Hey everybody, it's Louisa from Feel Good Astrology, and I'm back with another great realization. Now, we've had some really awesome ones up till now, and I say that because it's about to up the ante even more, because now we've actually got someone who's an expert on natural health and wellness. So my guest today is Helen Nachintu. I just want to make sure I pronounce that right. Did I get it right? Nachintu?
Yeah, that's correct. Say it as you see it.
Natural health and wellness coach and mentor, and also founder of the Venus Club Health website. And I'm sure, we'll learn a little bit about that as we go through this. So I've invited Helen here today to talk about the great realizations, because we're in a time of quite a lot of turmoil right now, and people have described it as a moment of great awakening, great pause, great this, that, and the other. So I guess I'd like to welcome you to this session, Helen. And my first question to you really is, what do you make of these times?
Okay, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on your show. I feel honored to be here. And that's a very big question, by the way. First of all, I'm going to apologize for my lopsided earphones. When I had my hair cut, I discovered my earphones were lopsided, so just excuse that. So going back to the question you've asked, what do I make of these times? Well, big question. There's a lot going on at the moment, as I'm sure you well know. And from social media posts, there are so many interesting posts going on. And I see so much anger in people as well, who've been kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Who have been almost trained to think a certain way and not to look outside of the box that they've been living in. And I kind of feel like, even though what we're going through at the moment is tough for a lot of us, and, we're all having our very different experiences. For instance, the person in a village in Uganda is having a different level of mental toughness towards this than the person in a city, and, so on and so forth. So I'm not downplaying how anybody is feeling about what's going on at the moment. But what I do feel is that it's actually a time for us to really take a close look at, I would say, everything that you have ever been taught by your parents, by your teachers, by your governments, and just start looking outside of the box a little bit more. And when you see posts on social media of people saying something that doesn't necessarily resonate, or something that doesn't resonate, that's not the word I want to use, something that triggers you, that triggers like a reactionary response of anger, especially anger, that's a really good time to actually take a pause and think, why am I getting angry? Why is that post just made me really, really angry? And,
good question.
Look really closely at that, and with a very open mind and with a very open heart. What I have found recently is, when I see posts like that and I see people reacting in a very angry way, I kind of think, well, why are you being angry? Why, in a world and in a society, let's say society, where we are being told that we're living in a democracy and we are living in a country, shall we say, where we have freedom of speech, and yet, just because somebody else post something on social media that somebody else doesn't like, and it triggers an anger response. So that person goes off and reports it to whatever, media platform, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or whatever. And the next thing you know, the post has been taken down. I kind of feel that this time in our lives has got that double-edged sword. The word that's coming to me is duality. So yeah. On the one hand, you've got the people that are seeking to know more about what's going on, and they're doing the deep research that it requires. And then when they are sharing their knowledge and sharing their research, now I'm not saying that everything you see on social media is gospel and it's, truthful and correct, but I do want you to just literally, I want people to literally go within and feel for their intuition beyond the anger. Usually when somebody is being truthful about something, there are 5 stages of getting to that truth, and anger is the first one, isn't it? Isn't it shock, then anger, then something else I can't quite remember, but people, people out there who are more familiar with it will be able to correct me, I'm sure. So there is this duality going on where you've got these people saying, hey, this is what I've discovered and I think you should know about it. And then there's the other side that's going, no, I don't want to know about that because I want to stay in my little box that I have been kept in for all of this time. And it's been very comfortable. Thank you very much. But, when you look deep down, has it really been that comfortable if that post is really triggering a reaction of anger in you?
Yeah. And it's just got a lot less comfortable, hasn't it?
Yeah. It certainly has, but I'm sure that we'll talk more about that as this interview goes on. So what do I make of it? It's a very interesting time for many of us. There are those of us who are looking at it as, right, okay, I'm at home, I've got time on my hands. What is it that I should be doing for myself first and foremost? Because all too quickly, all too often, we are very quick to actually think, oh, I need to go out and help somebody else. and we forget to help ourselves first, because somewhere in our conditioning also we have been taught that helping ourselves first is actually selfish. and for me, when anybody calls me selfish, I'm just really applauding that, because it means that I'm on point and I'm preparing myself for helping other people, because unless you can help yourself first, how are you expecting to show up and in the world and be able to help other people? It all has to begin with you. So no, you're not being selfish. So, well, you are, but not in the sense that we have been taught the word selfish means. Selfish is self-care, and it's just being used as a way of stigmatizing each other and stigmatizing those people that are taking care of themselves first. And I see so many people go on about self-care. Well, what that translates into is actually being selfish first.
Point. That's really strong to listen to, because we are conditioned out of that from an early age, aren't we? We're conditioned to people say, oh, don't make a fuss, come on, just do it this time. And people are always kind of trying to embarrass us out of looking after ourselves and making sure our state is okay. I notice it with my own children, that sometimes I might say something that all parents say, and then I think, crikey, why did I say that? And it's just to control the children rather than let them be. And of course, when they're just being themselves, they're completely happy. And so, they're all they want is to self-care, isn't it? They want to look after their immediate interests.
Yeah.
Really point.
Absolutely. No. It's great to hear it from that perspective as well. I'm a parent too, and even though I don't have young children, she's at this moment in time, she's 24 years old. She's just left home again because we went from being a family of 2 people in the house most of the time to suddenly overnight going to a family of 5. And you know, that brings me back to the point of actually having to be a bit selfish and look after yourself first, because when you go from suddenly it's just the 2 of you to 5 people, and they're all looking at you, even though they're older, they're all looking at you like, okay, we need to know that, you know, we're safe and everything's going to be okay, and they need that person to help them be emotionally balanced. You've got to be able to show up as that person. No pressure. But, you know, this also requires time to yourself in order to have some self-reflection and, you know, just in order to reorganize your mind and rearrange your mind in a way that is more conducive to, you know, suddenly having to look after 4 other people around you. So, you know, this is really a time for self-reflection, I feel, and rediscovery as well. And hence why I talked about the Facebook posts that are out at the moment, which are triggering people. I feel like that's literally that push that some people actually need and are looking for in order, they may not know it, but they are being pushed to actually look outside of the box and, you know, rediscover, recreate, reinvent themselves. And I am also talking to the people out there who I'm very aware of their lives have changed, you know, drastically, because either they've lost their jobs or, you know, they've been furloughed. I just want to say this to those of you who are listening or watching who may be in this position, in terms of rediscovering yourself and that the whole self-reflection thing. I think this is a great time for you to be doing this, and maybe taking the opportunity to not necessarily see this as a huge negative in your lives, even though I can appreciate it will have had some negative impacts on your life. But rather than, because I know you go through that whole grieving process of either losing a job or being furloughed, but, you know, the trick in terms of how you can perhaps handle this in a much more productive and positive way is that not to dwell too much on the negative aspects of having lost your job or having been furloughed, and just really think about it as, okay, this is an opportunity for me to look at doing something different. Perhaps, you know, if you've had a hobby that you've always wanted to turn into a business, but always felt you'd be too busy because, you know, your 9-to-5 job or whatever job that you're doing has always taken up your time. This is the time for you to actually flourish, because I feel that we are, as humanity, we are going to be majorly stepping away from employment as we know it, and our lives are going to be more about being self-sufficient and taking charge of our own finances and taking charge of our own time, taking back our time. And this comes into taking back our sovereignty, which is something different. Well, it's aligned with what I'm saying, but we will talk about that a little bit later as well. And, you know, I just feel it's time for you to take back control, or, you know, in all the areas that you felt controlled, and you felt that you weren't allowed to, you know, flourish with, you know, ideas that maybe you wanted to present to your own boss and, you know, things like that. So just take a moment to see how you can use this time to actually recreate and reinvent yourself. And just know that everything that appears to be negative in our lives actually has a really good, positive outcome. It may not come to you immediately, but eventually it will be a positive outcome, and you'll be looking back on this maybe like a year, 2 years, whatever, from this, whatever that timeline may look like. I don't know. So don't hold me to it. You'll be looking. don't come on saying, "Oh, Helen said in 2 years' time everything was going to be fine." No, I didn't. Let me just put you straight on that. So the timeline will be different for all of us depending on how much effort and energy we put into what we want to manifest for ourselves. But what I'm saying is, in time, you'll be looking back at this and thinking, oh my God, it may have looked like a really crappy time, and, everything may have been like doom, gloom, and negative. But, if it wasn't for that period of my time, I wouldn't have been able to be doing what I'm doing now, that I love. And, so there are positives. As the cliche says, there's behind every gray cloud is a silver lining. So look for that silver lining.
Yeah, right. So, yes, I'm really feeling that, because, most people I know have been through some changes, and I've noticed a lot of my clients have been through quite a few changes in these last few months, definitely. What I'm wondering is, what have you noticed during these times? Like, what changes have occurred in your daily practice or in your work practice and with the clients that you're working with? How has that changed? Or how are you preparing for the changes that you're seeing?
Okay, I'm going to start from the family perspective, which I touched on earlier, and how it's changed us as a family, and how I've had to really adapt to the environment. Because first of all, when you go from being just 2 people in the household to then 5 people, and you mostly work from home, and you've just decided to rebrand and reorganize your website, and this has all happened in the middle of you creating new content for your website, which is video recordings, audio recordings. It can be really, really tough transition to make, because I'm a person that's used to going to bed really early, say like 8 o'clock, 8:30. Normally I would be in bed and probably asleep by 9 o'clock. So I usually wake up at 3 a.m. and 3 a.m. is just my time. That's when I have time to myself, and I can relax and do my meditations and really center myself before starting work and before the whole world wakes up and you've got emails, phone calls, everything going on, and all the distractions. So having gone from that to most people at home were not really sleeping until maybe midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. So, and I'm also a very light sleeper, which makes it which makes it even more challenging. Now, so for the past probably nine weeks, I hadn't been going to bed anytime before 11 p.m. and not sleeping anytime before 1 a.m. And then, trying to maintain that 3 a.m., 4 a.m. wake up was just really, really exhausting. And I was trying to do that so that I could find that quiet time where I could record videos and record audios. And then I found, as soon as I switched the camera on, I thought, there was no way I'm going on camera looking like that at 4 a.m. in the morning. It completely puts a different stance on it when you are, recording videos in the middle of the day, say when you're fully awake and you're fully rejuvenated, to 4 a.m. with bags down your eyes and you're looking really tired. And I thought, that's not a great look at all. So let's just scrap that idea and, just work things differently. So what I'm saying is that essentially it's taken, there's been major changes in the household. Everything from, cooking daily, and the amount of food we're cooking and the amount of shopping. And it's just, everything's changed quite a lot. But that's not necessarily been a bad thing either, because it's in some ways it brought some of us together, and in some ways it showed us who our true characters were, and it revealed a lot of underlying issues that, or should I say, rather than issues, underlying emotional challenges and behaviors that some of us may have been holding on to for quite a long time. So it really brought those up to the surface in order for them to be worked on and shifted. And you know, as I say, every cloud has a silver lining. So even though we had some emotional challenges going on, we were able to work through those. And I'm actually, even though at the time I kind of felt, oh, why me? Why now? You know, could things get any worse? I now look back on that and think, actually, it was good for that to happen, because we were able to resolve issues and work on things. So, you know, it's not always a bad thing to be in lockdown with 4 other people you're not used to being with. So she says. You know, I'm just hoping that I'm giving hope to maybe, you know, other families out there who are in lockdown and in close proximity with each other, and perhaps feel like, you know, you're all driving each other crazy. What I would say to you is just drop all of your standard practices in terms of your daily routines, because all of that will change. And, you know, as human beings, change is one of those things that we tend to resist, especially if it's not the way that we intended it to be. It's not the way we planned it to be. And it's like, no, this feels way too uncomfortable. I don't want to do this. And so we resist and resist and resist. What I'm saying is follow the path of least resistance, because the more you resist, and following the path of least resistance is just by saying, hey, you know what? I'm not used to doing this much shopping. I'm not used to cooking this much food, but we are where we are. It is what it is. This is a temporary situation. It will pass, just like anything else. You know, everything you see around you, within you, is temporary. We're constantly shifting and evolving as human beings, as light beings. Nothing will ever stay permanent. I mean, if you want a really good example of that, just take out a photograph of you when you were a baby and all the different stages, you know, from birth to 7 years old to 14 to 18 to wherever you are now. And you will see that, you know, nothing is permanent. We are constantly going through changes, but the only way you're going to survive those changes without too much of, I would say, an emotional disturbance is just by following the path of least resistance. But also within that, I want to remind everybody to literally have your boundaries and hold those boundaries strong within you. So just because you're following the path of least resistance, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should, you know, let somebody else kind of run your life or try and tell you what to do. And if it doesn't feel right to you, then that means somebody's either overstepping your boundaries, or there is something within you that is being brought to the surface to kind of deal with from an emotional standpoint. So that's just the family aspect dealt with. So when I'll talk about the work aspect. How have things changed for me?
Yeah, like how's your work changed to accommodate the changing situations maybe of your clients, and what you anticipate coming up in the future, and so on and so forth?
Okay, so it's really interesting that I'm about to say something that I actually mentioned yesterday on a live Facebook Live as well. In terms of how my work has changed, is that for the past, I would say, 4 or 5 months, I've had this inner shift within me to work differently with my clients. And I've actually put clients off from booking a session with me. And that's going to sound absolutely insane. But once I explain it, you'll understand why. I felt like I was having a major shift within myself, and I needed to clear certain things on an energetic level before I could actually show up for somebody else and support somebody else in the way that they needed me to. So that was number one. Number two, while I was going through that, I actually felt that my work has to move away from me calling myself the healer, because what I am potentially saying to a potential client or to my existing clients is that you don't know how to do this. You could never do this for yourself. So I'm taking that power away from you, and you have to believe in me as your healer. And, you know, it suddenly dawned on me. I thought, well, no, I can't do that, especially if I'm talking about inspiring and empowering each other to heal the world. So I felt that it, you know, there was a time when, you know, light workers, coaches, mentors, we had a duty to do that, and you know, we were supported in doing that. But I feel that with a new energy shift, it's also shifting the way in which we are being called to restructure and review how we are working. And instead of disempowering you know, our clients, instead of disempowering them, sorry, I got distracted by a cute little bunny rabbit just running across the field. I'm sitting in my meditation room facing the window, and it's just, yeah, sorry.
No, that's fine. You enjoy it.
So yeah, what I'm saying is, instead of disempowering our clients by saying, you know, I am the healer, it's more that I feel that energetically we should see ourselves as facilitators in the healing process, because it's actually not our job to heal anybody else. But, you know, if someone comes to me and they say, Helen, I have this issue on an energetic level, emotional level, whatever it is, or a health issue, and I'm looking for a natural solution to it, I'm not going to say, oh, well, no. I'll say, okay, fine. But I can only empower you with the tools to do that for yourself. What you do from there on is entirely up to you, which I also feel that, you know, we're all being called to take responsibility for ourselves and for our own actions. And so I feel that's very much in line with the current energy of empowering each other rather than disempowering each other. And so, you know, with that in mind, I then took this time to really look very closely at what it is that I do, and really look at what my strapline is for Venus Club Health. And it's inspiring and empowering each other to heal the world, one person at a time, you know. And I looked at my website and I thought, well, you know, how am I actually doing this? Because I have a static website. Yes, I'm blogging. I'm not sure who's visiting the site. I don't see any interaction. It's not very interactive. And so I thought to myself, right, okay, I need to do something about it. So I sat down and brainstormed some ideas. And I believe I was given a really good solution. And I'm, you know, grateful for the solution that I was given. So my new website now, by the way, I changed the website address altogether as well, because Venus Club initially just sounded like a club, and then there were other Venus clubs around there, but they were nightclubs around the world. So I thought, okay, yeah, let's scrap that. Even though that old site is still live, I don't really use it. So I'm transitioning to the new website, which is www.venusclubhealth.com. And it really is connecting people and healing each other one person at a time. So with that in mind, I set up various groups on the website. So if you are a holistic practitioner, there's a group for you. If you are, you know, specifically training EFT, I can put a group there for you. There's natural health remedies. There's even astrology. And I set that one up with you in mind, actually. And yeah, and you know, the idea was, what I essentially created is a social health network that is global. So people from different areas of the world can, you know, it's almost like Facebook, but without being Facebook. There's no censorship. There's no weird algorithms that don't let you see your friends' posts. You can choose who you want to follow, what groups you want to follow, what topics you want to follow. You can unfollow people, block them, do what you like, and, you know, interact. But I feel like the new website now brings people together more than my old website ever could. And it's quite funny that at the same time, I actually had my cousin contact me saying, look, there are so many people going through depression, stress, people are committing suicide. I'm getting my female friends ringing me saying they're going through domestic violence and this and the other. How can we get together as a collective and just help each other through the emotional turmoil and the mental health issues that are being presented by COVID-19 and beyond? So then we came up with this concept of United Health Initiatives, Projects and Services, which is a global partnership between Tanzania, Uganda, and the UK. And so we're still looking for more people to join. It doesn't just have to be Tanzania, Uganda, and the UK. You know, these are not the only countries being affected by COVID-19 situation and beyond. So the idea is it's a free group which sits on my website, and it's there to support people through the mental, emotional challenges that they're having at this moment in time and beyond. And actually, I've got a Zoom call later today, and we're covering men and mental health within that. Yeah. And so the last element of my rebranding was really, for many years, I've been speaking to coaches, mentors, light workers who are brilliant at what they do, but lack the technical ability to actually, you know, take control and put their own websites together, do podcasts, anything that involves technology. They tend to be a little tech phobic about it.
We're notoriously bad at that, aren't we?
Yeah. And I thought, you know what, I'm in a very fortunate position whereby I am that tech geek, and I am that person that thinks, right, how can I work smarter and not harder, but using technology? So I'm constantly seeking out new ways of being able to do that. And one of the ideas I came up with was, right, okay, so these people want to have a lot more interaction with their clients and potential clients, but they're not getting it without, you know, paying, I won't even say paying, I would say throwing money away advertising on Facebook, because quite frankly, unless you've got thousands of pounds to pay Facebook, your advertisements really aren't really going to be that successful unless you're doing it constantly. Yeah, and then they're telling you what you can and can't include in the adverts. You know, it's just crazy. So I thought, right, how can I help my lightworker friends and my coaches and mentors around the world to be able to access, you know, a platform that will give them a lot of functionality, a lot of diversity and interactiveness with potential clients that they may not have met otherwise, you know, from other groups on my site. So I came up with the idea that, okay, so I'm going to say, look, if you haven't got any money and you can't afford to have this super duper interactive website or whatever, I will set up your group. I will give you all the training you need on your group, and I will give you all the technical hand holding and but because basically it's paying it forward, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, they're bringing followers to and members to my website. They're also at the same time, they've got their own group they're in control of. They actually have the ability to communicate in real time. Like if they put a post out, they can just send a notification to everybody in their group to say, you know, an important post has gone out. You know, they can create their own events. They can, you know, it's so dynamic, it's so interactive. They could do live chats and all that kind of stuff. And as I say, the biggest issue for light workers and coaches and mentors has always been this technophobia thing. So I just want to be able to bring them into the 21st century, because this is where we're heading technology-wise. So I don't want to see really amazing people being held back just because they've got this phobia of technology. So, you know, they can see me as their tech hand holder, whatever, whatever it is, you know, I'll be on hand to guide them, train them through how to set up and use their own groups and stuff like that. So that's that. yeah.
I think that's very powerful. I mean, a lot of the people I work with are light workers themselves who are coming more into their own power all the time. And the thing that really strikes me right now is that the light worker community is being really hit with censorship. I was even shadow banned, and I don't consider myself to be particularly outrageous. And funnily enough, the video that I was shadow banned for sharing, which Facebook fact checkers said was false, although they didn't come out of the shadows to say who they were. They're a non-transparent fact checking. Who's checking them? But anyway, like a couple of months down the line, we actually find out that actually what was being said was true, and it feels like the light workers are getting a real hit at the moment. It's now I actually see it as, like you said at the start, as being a double-edged sword. The more people are getting hit back, the more it's making people question things, even if they're not questioning at first. They register that feeling of dissonance or discomfort or triggering.
It's cognitive dissonance, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I actually think that the heavy-handed censorship will actually work in the favor of people waking up a little bit. And something else I noticed as well, which I think is perfect, with your idea, is the fact that there's a lot of, like on Facebook in particular, people are very polar, like you said, in a place of duality. And I'm noticing a lot of requests at the moment about relationship issues, where one partner is more yielding to what's going on, and the other partner stay set in the place where they are in their belief systems. And I always think whatever's going on at a living level is happening around the world too. This energy, we're all connected. So if in our personal lives we're becoming more polarized, and in the world we're becoming more polarized, there is this shift, this bifurcation going on, but it's awakening energy. It's the energy that we need to shift. And it wouldn't happen without that. So that makes me feel like all these new technologies and opportunities for people who've been silenced to be able to share their work, their vibration, their joy, their thoughts, their research. I think it's really, really good. So I think you're really on trend, in a really purposeful and beautiful way. I think that's
Thank you so much. I mean, I get the whole censorship thing, and I was you're not the only one. I've had a few friends, I've had quite a number of friends who've had their posts removed. They've gone to Facebook jail. I mean, Facebook jail, come on now. You know what?
Even my messages on Messenger, sometimes they would go through to my friends, but if I was sending a message to some of my more alternative thinking friends, it looked like it was being sent, but they sure as hell didn't receive it. And I had to check.
Really?
Yes. I was so surprised by that. That level of filtering would occur. I was very shocked.
Wow. Yeah, I experienced something similar, not with Messenger or WhatsApp, but with YouTube. So there was.
You talk about vitamin C, because the CEO of YouTube put a video up to say that anything with vitamin C endorsement was going to be removed, unequivocally removed, because it's false.
Wow. I'm sure that any genuine doctors actually watching this will be really shocked at that. And it just goes to show you the level of censorship. I mean, I was on a Zoom call last week, which I'm now hosting every Fridays. And there were doctors on the call from Uganda and all over the place. And they were shocked to hear that social media censorship actually exists. But as I was saying, I literally experienced a very similar thing with it was probably under 3 minutes. It was a video clip, and I'm sure you're going to remember this. It was a video clip taken from what was, I think, just under 2 hours of a conference call between two doctors. it wasn't a conference call, sorry, it was a conference, and there were two doctors who were quite clearly speaking their truths, and should we just say going against the narrative of what they have always been taught, and really exposing what's going on at this time. And that video got banned within, was it 24 hours of going live? It was removed from everywhere. Yeah. So somebody had sent me like a 3-minute version of that, and I thought, okay, I'll put that up on my YouTube channel. Well, YouTube kept saying, we are having issues processing your video at this moment in time. Please try again later. And every single time I tried, it just would not allow it. And then it eventually came up with some, restrictions or something like due to restrictions. And I just thought, wow, okay, I won't be putting that there then.
I had difficulty tagging one of my guests in the video because he had to change his name anyway or alter his name because he kept getting shadow banned. But when I tried to tag him into video to thank him, Facebook kept saying there was an internal error, it couldn't be processed. And same happened on YouTube as well. So I sent him a message and said, wow, you're a much bigger pain in the ass than you realize, it's but I guess with some of these relationships that people have been calling me about,
yes,
there was this feeling of internal censorship, and that's what's going on. Because, there is this Facebook and YouTube censorship going on. Carl and I, and we have very, very similar views. Earlier on, a couple of months ago, I felt like he was trying to censor me, and we had some old rows about it because I really felt that he was using shame or guilt to kind of shut me down. It's what I was projecting onto him, and he was probably projecting onto me, that I was being dangerous or something. But for people whose views are very, very different, this is really quite times. We're entirely censoring each other, our neighbours. We're dobbing them in. Well, I'm not, and I'm sure you're. So many people are. Shut them down.
You know what? I literally am resonating with everything that you are saying right now, literally and energetically. I resonate with what you're saying because, we're speaking openly here, and I, myself and Jeff have gone through what yourself and Carl have gone through. Okay, so Jeff doesn't necessarily understand fully what it is that I do as a light worker and, on the energy level stuff. I mean, he's starting to understand bits of it, and he takes a huge interest in what I do, and he is supportive in what I do. But I consider myself as a person of free speech, and but within that free speech, I do censor myself. I do find myself censoring myself in certain situations and circumstances. And one of the things that happened probably at the very beginning of all of this pandemic, that's what I'm going to call it. Everybody's entitled to call it whatever they want to. Please don't shout at me. I'm entitled to my own freedom of speech. And I choose to call it a pandemic for the reasons that will soon become apparent to everyone. And at the very beginning, I was doing massive research into what was going on, because I'm that type of person that I have to understand. I can't just watch the news. I don't watch the news anyway. I can't just watch the news and take what's going on in the news as gospel, because we all know how that goes, and won't even, if I have to talk about that, we'll be here all day long. But
I just look for signs in the news, signs of little trends, like Jacinta Ardern. Is that her name? I saw a few days ago. She's the PM of New Zealand, and she was caught at the end of a press conference saying a really clear message, and she said, there's lots of conflicting ideas out there right now. There's lots of fake news all over social media. And I'm personally, and my team are are looking at all of those theories. And here's my message. My message is, if you have any questions about what you should do or not do right now, you go to the government website, where we will tell you what you need to know. And she was basically, I mean, that might have been very reassuring for a lot of people, but when I caught that on the news, this kind of feeling went through me of dread, because really what's happening is, or how it appears to me, is that there's what looks like a very reasonable suggestion, which is you listen to the government, but underneath that is this very clear message that the only place you should get your information from is from the government, and everything else is fake news. Because the way she couched it, and I trained in hypnosis, so I also listen out for things like that too. And it was a subliminal, not even that subliminal, it was really forceful. Anyone, and when they're doing those moves, it's this is a slippery slope, and I just think at some point people will notice. But sorry, I interrupted. Go on.
No, I also feel that the governments are telling you that you are not able to think for yourself, so we'll do the thinking on your behalf because you are too stupid to do so. That's basically what they're saying.
You're so stupid.
So yeah, I'm going back to what I was saying, that when this all first started, I was doing a ton of research and I uncovered some things, and I thought it was a great idea to share them with my fiance. Oh my God, I got a backlash. I think we both went to work that day just not talking to each other. I think how we left it was, okay, you've got your views and I respect them, and I've got my own, and please respect them, but don't try and judge me for my views as much as I'm not. Well, don't judge me for my views just as much as I'm not judging you for yours. It's fine. We're just at very different levels of research and understanding, and whatever that looks like, we're just at very different levels. So, being mindful of that is really important, I feel, as well, in terms of self-protection, because I can literally be out in a group of people and I will be able to sense who I can have certain conversations with and who I just cannot have those conversations with, because they're not even willing to be open-minded. They're not willing to embrace the whole freedom of speech, even though I'm sitting there. They're having all these conversations that goes against what I choose to believe in and what I'm choosing my narrative to be. But, I'm not calling anybody names. I'm not calling them stupid. I'm not calling them dumb. I'm not calling them, conspiracy theorists or whatever. It's, I think this is a time, I feel like it's a time to remove judgments.
Yes, I love that. I absolutely love that. A time to remove judgments.
Yeah. And just basically allow everything to flow in the direction that it was meant to flow. Because, I know some people that may well unfriend me after watching this live, but you know what? I don't care. If you care about me as a friend, then as a friend, you should also be mindful and caring that I'm also allowed to have freedom of speech as your friend. I'm not there to be controlled by you as my friend. And if you are one of those controlling friends, well then, bye-bye. I'm not being nasty or horrible. I'm just saying that this is also a time for people not to feel suppressed by other people. Because so many people are like, oh, but if I say this, then somebody's going to unfriend me or they won't be my friend anymore. What I'm saying is they were probably not your friend to start with if they're going to unfriend you. Or they just need to reevaluate what the word friendship actually means.
I notice a lot of friendships are based on perceived similar values, that we, like birds of a feather, flock together. And I see that possibly as self-protection more than friendship. And we probably don't realize that.
Yeah.
And, I'm a bit of a kind of social loner. So this isolation, social distancing is nothing for me. I'm just like, hello, bring it on. This is perfect for me. Although, I feel sorry for people who struggle with this. But because I've always been very kind of not antisocial. I'm very social, but like I connect with who I want to connect with. You know, I don't really have that problem, but I see people who kind of stick in their groups and get what's the word, like that perceived safety from their groups as being particularly fearful at this time. And it's okay to be like that, you know, but it's worth observing that and what it might mean to you, you know.
Yeah, totally. There are so many friendships that are going to go through some turmoil, not just friendships, just relationships in general, and that actually includes the relationship that you have with yourself, which will bring me back actually to, you know, you were saying this huge imbalance in relationships. People are finding that one person is trying to censor them while they're trying to be really, well, not trying, I have to stop using the word trying, because I always tell my clients not to say trying, because it means you're not doing anything. So people are attempting to censor the other person in a relationship. And I feel that it's because we are going through a time of massive spiritual awakening. Now, first of all, to people who are maybe thinking, oh no, she's talking about spirituality, I don't want to hear it. The word
I can't hear you.
Before you switch off, let me just explain something that might help you to reevaluate and rethink the whole word spirituality. First of all, if you break it down, spirit in Latin actually means breath. It's a Latin word for breath. Spiritus, spirit, spiritus. So essentially, everything you do in your life is spiritual because you're breathing.
Yes.
Right. So it's not. It's not always about being esoteric. It's not always about being woo-woo or what people would consider woo-woo. So at the very basic, it's about your breath. It's about life. Yeah. So everything you do in life has a spiritual connotation to it, because while you're doing it, you're actually breathing. So hopefully that's giving you a different perspective on spirit and spirituality. So where was I going with this?
I don't know, but I was kind of just listening and enjoying it.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I've been reminded. So it's an interesting time that we're going through of massive spiritual awakening. Yeah. So reviewing, reflecting on our lives, where we're up to, where we want to be. That's all spirituality going on within you and around you. Okay. So love it, embrace it, get on with it. And because we're being called to awaken spiritually, this actually requires a balance of your feminine and your masculine energies. And the feminine energy, I'm not being facetious or anything like that, but the feminine energy is the most powerful energy. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that the masculine energy is not required either. Both of them are required in order for us to live a much more balanced life. So when you're, especially for the women, I'm going to speak for the women, that because I can't speak for the men right now, but especially for the women, you will know when your masculine and feminine is not in balance, especially when your masculine is up here and your feminine is here.
Yes.
What that looks like is it's a form of fight or flight mode, whereby something's being said to you and you go straight into the defensive, which is straight into your masculine energy. So hence, when you were saying that, you know, one partner is speaking their truth and the other's trying to dumb the other one down, it's because okay, now I am going to speak for the men because I've experienced this. It's because the men are also struggling to balance their energies. So, you know, we are all born with masculine and feminine energies. Don't let your gender fool you. Okay? You have both. And with both energies come different characteristics and different energies, which have to align in order for us to move forward, embrace who we are, speak our truths, and be more open with each other, be more accepting of each other without this judgment. Because we get judged on being male, we get judged on being female, okay? Yeah. Being male or female isn't going to change anytime soon, but what I'm saying is you're born with both masculine and feminine energies. Find a way of balancing those. And if you don't know how to do this, there are a lot of holistic practitioners out there, including myself, who can help you with this. So you're not on your own. If you're interested in balancing it, you will actually be directed to the right person that can help you.
So if somebody's been listening to this, Helen, and they think that you're the right person for them to contact, how can they reach you? What's your preferred way of them reaching you?
Okay, so people can reach me through the website at www.venusclubhealth.com. They can also reach me on social media. So I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest as well, and as well as YouTube. So my hashtag is Venus Club Health, and my social media handle is at Venus Club Health. So I'm pretty easy to find. Plus, you won't find many Helen Nachintus out there.
That's true. An awesome name. Right. I think this has been a really beautiful opening and kind of sharing. And I feel like I've taken enough of your time today. I would love to invite you back for another chat some other time if it works for you. But I know you're really, really busy too. But if you'd love to, I'd love to chat more. But I feel like it's a good time to draw this to a natural close.
Yeah.
So I need to go and do a bit of childcare as well.
That's fine. Totally understand. It's been a pleasure being on your show. And yes, I would love to come back again and perhaps explore some of those topics we touched on earlier, but didn't really get around to talking about in full. So that should be exciting.
Explore body sovereignty and sovereignty in ourselves and things like that.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah. We'll see. The world is ever changing and very quickly, and it could be a whole different topic by the time we get round to it. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that interaction. So thank you.
No, thank you. Okay, so for anyone that's stuck around for this whole almost an hour, thank you so much for your time. We've obviously had quite a few live listeners today, and this is also going to be put on YouTube. So I thank you if you've listened in on YouTube or actually listened on Spotify as a podcast version. So thank you once again, Helen. I really, really appreciate you sharing your time with me and everyone else today. If you want to reach out to Helen, so you can reach her with the handle at Venus Club Health, or go directly to her website, venusclubhealth.com. If you want to hook up with me, then it's Louisa at feelgoodastrology.com. Thanks once again for your time. If any of this has resonated, feel free to share us far and wide. We don't mind that, do we?
No, we don't.
All right, wherever you are in the world, lots of love to you.
Lots of love. Bye.